My name is Lauren Hollows from NOI Education Services, and as part of our continuing interview series, I'm lucky enough to be here today with Vanessa McCarthy from Prickly to Sweet. Thank you so much for joining us today, Vanessa.
Oh, so welcome.
Now, we have had AI write your introduction, so I'm going to read you the introduction that Google Bard has written for you, and we will see whether or not the Bard got it right. Vanessa McCarthy is a leading figure in the education sector in Australia. She is the CEO and founder of Education Compliance Validators, a company that provides independent compliance validation to the education sector. Under McCarthy's leadership, ECV has developed a number of innovative programs that are helping to improve the quality of education in Australia. McCarthy is also a strong advocate for women in leadership. As a member of the Australian Women in Leadership Foundation, she is a mentor to many young women who are interested in pursuing a career in leadership. McCarthy is a passionate and dedicated leader who is making a difference in the lives of people all over Australia. How did it go?
I don't know about that founder, that membership. Where is that from? I'd like to know if they actually exist. That's pretty cool.
Cool.
That sounds cool. If it's not created, let's do it. Let's create it.
We should 100% do that. Maybe it was having a bit of a like futuristic sort of a moment there. But you are very passionate. You got that part right. You're very passionate. Yes. You have developed some very innovative programs in and around validation for Correct. Our sector that is very different than what anybody else is doing. So yes. Why don't we start by actually getting the truth from your mouth as to what it is that you do, what Prickly to Sweet does.
Sure. So the AI did get it right. I agree. However, I'm less consulting now and far more innovative tech space to make RTOs and resource writers and anybody associated with vet content, their lives easier and more economical, so they can focus on other parts that they're more passionate about and not pulled down by compliance processes. So it was very interesting. So I'm very much into the validation assessment review online tech space, as well as obviously now being an author, and I'm now writing my second and third book. So that's where my time sits.
And so you've been in this, like you've been in the kind of using tech to, to support compliance. You've been in it a lot longer than a lot of other people have. I mean, the products that you developed, tell people a little bit about the product that you developed and how your product validates units, because it doesn't use a human being. It obviously uses, a version of AI to do that. So tell people a little bit, because you've been in this space for like a lot longer than most people in vet have.
Yeah, so the system's been commercially available for the last 5 years, but we've been developing it 2-3 years before that, and I've been using it as a consultant and testing, and I tested the out of it. So, because I really had to make sure it worked. So my experience in compliance and auditing drove me to the point where it's not good enough just reading text and matching keywords. It actually has to do a lot more than that. So the Prickly to Sweet system is based on the units of competency, and ChatGPT is an NLP program. So it's a natural language program that actually looks at and reviews content. Our system does that, but unlike ChatGPT and other AI content creating tools, ours is restricted and based on the principles of assessment, rules of evidence, the standards for RTOs, the understanding of relationships between foundation skills and dimensions of competency, things you can't just get from reading text. So our system has a lot more built in than just, for example, some providers understand that, say, mapping is a very hard process of copy and pasting. It takes a long time. There are some programs that do that for you, but it's just scraping from training.gov, which doesn't actually assist a provider only maybe by a couple of hours. It doesn't do much else. Other programs that are in this space of reviewing assessments are generally ones that are online assessment tools or LMSs, and they still expect a human to identify how their assessment questions, tasks, tools, instruments, all of those things are required to comply with the unit. So it's still bound to somebody's opinion, bias, and assumption. Our system removes that completely and is actually independent of all of those, plus adds all the other bits and pieces, such as rules within a unit. So performance evidence requires you are to do a particular task. over a particular period of time, or it requires that it picks from, say, a list of 6, but you only have to have 2 of them. So our system says
4 of these 6 assessment tools, four of these pieces of equipment out of the 6 or something like that.
Correct. Yeah. Or even legislation down to, say, for example, the construction workplace health and safety unit requires everybody to comply with a piece of legislation, but you only have to comply with the one that is applicable to you. So if you're in Queensland, it's the Queensland one. If you're in WA, it's the WA one. But the unit has to list all of them. So it says one of the following. So your assessment activities can refer to one, but you comply with the whole performance evidence, even though you don't list all 6. So these are the things that are sometimes missed by people. Sometimes they're not necessarily picked up by other systems. Our system will absolutely pick it up, provide you with an option to say, hey, if you did want to expand this, you can include blah. So it allows you to contextualize as well. So that's the system in a nutshell. We save time and money and do it really accurately.
Excellent. Awesome. So you also have a new book out. So tell us about the new book. I believe it's called Assessment 101.
Yes, or 101 assessment tips.
101 assessment. I knew I had the number in there. My memory was terrible. 101 assessment tips. So, okay. So give me the top 3 of your 101 assessment tips then.
Okay. Number 1 is actually understanding the unit. Like this seems really simple and very basic, but it is 100% understand the unit. It's not just list your performance criteria as activities. You have to really understand the unit purpose, the application, the concept around why it's required as a skill and knowledge. So that's number 1 tip of the day, understand the unit. Number 2 is I'm going to fly all the way through to clustered assessments. I love clustered assessments. I love holistic assessment. It reduces the repetitiveness of assessments. And this tip in here really gets you to understand what clustered assessments are. And you have even done, Lauren, a YouTube clip on clustered assessments. And I went, oh, yes, all of those things. Yes, that's a great tip. So basically, it is understanding the relationship between 2 or more or applying skills and knowledge. So yes, assessment by clustering is a great tip to use. And the third one, let me think. I think the big one here would be industry. Understanding assessments have to be relevant to industry. And I don't mean give an industry person your assessment tool and say, what do you think? That doesn't work. It really is down to, does the assessment achieve what is industry required at the end of the day? If a person is doing it, actually be required in industry. And if they go onto the job, they can actually apply that skill.
Absolutely. And I mean, look, I think going back to that one about understanding the unit, that is so important because people will often, even little things like when the units are written, they're actually not always written in the same sequence that you would actually do the task. Like we're often doing a map that we've created the task based on how we know the industry flow is. And it'll be like 1.1, 1.2, 3.4, 2.3, 1.5, like, that's the order, but that's the order that it naturally gets done in. So that's the order that the assessment should be in, not 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. Like it's just, that's not how it works in real life. So yeah, that's
numbers of habit. And when we read from top to bottom, we just can't help ourselves. That's what we expect it to actually be. And we've been taught in the TAE renditions of, even way back when I first did mine of the BSZ and further on, we were always taught. And so we have to sort of twist our understanding and really get back to the whole point of VET, and that is providing people with skills and knowledge to do it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So can I ask, I mean, obviously, as I said, you've been developing this product for 5 years. You were working on it for 3 years beforehand. Why the passion? Like, where's the passion come from for obviously for validation? Like, why is that the big thing for you?
Validation to me, and the reason I'm so passionate about it, is I actually see this as the compliance in an organization. Now, we're currently looking at playing with the concept of self-assurance. But way back when I first started years ago in this industry, we talked a lot about internal audit and quality, and we've moved away from that and I'm now coming back the other way to go, okay, well, to self-assurance. But the only way to be assured of your self-understanding and complying and having a quality outcome is actually through the validation process. And I'm not talking through student sampling only. I'm talking through when you're really looking at the whole part of your RTS out, and 70% of providers get this wrong at audit. They just don't get the concept of when you're dealing with assessment, a piece of paper and a test that says question 1. You're dealing with a whole system of assessment. You're dealing with the assessors that are doing the environment and the context in which the assessment is occurring. You're dealing with the other resources and support systems associated with that assessment process. Or the particular cohort, should they actually be doing this method of assessment? Or is that not a contextualized process that you've done before? You haven't checked that this is the right person in the right situation. So you then go all the way through to going, okay, well, when you look at this big picture, are the right person to do that particular job? It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's where validation needs to be pulled right in and go, okay, yes, you do need to look at samples to do, but don't use that as a minimum. I'm a big person of don't focus on the bare basics. Focus on your bigger purpose. And when you do that, you then focus inward. And to do inward, you can go from the validation process out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really important. Sorry. Yeah, so because you talk about context there, and I love that question of, is this the right type of assessment for this particular group? So when we look at, for example, CRICOS students who've never been in an Australian workplace before, who are doing this in simulation versus your existing workers who are apprentices who've been, in the job for the last 5 years anyway, and now they're just going through kind of like this really more of like an assessment recognition sort of a process as part of their apprenticeship. Like those require 2 totally different assessment processes, types of tools, everything like that. So the idea of like, you can buy, we have 5 different cohorts and 3 different delivery models, but we've got 1 assessment tool for all of that is like, really?
Yeah, it doesn't sit right, does it?
No,
Yeah, it doesn't sit right.
100%. No. So, how do you see AI? How is it going to change assessment? How is it obviously changing validation? How is this technology? Because it really has kicked off in the last year. And I think what we're going to see over the next 5 years is just going to be, an explosion of that. How do you see AI changing assessment and validation moving forward?
Yeah, I actually think it's already changed it. So, and I've even changed the whole vet sector. When you look from the start of a student starting or from an RTO looking for new students, their marketing and recruitment, they're already using AI for that. If they use any sort of social media, they are targeting particular audiences. That's AI based. So right from the word go, marketing and recruitment. Then you've got lead generations or automation like Automate Converter already using AI to actually ensure that you're getting the right person for the right course and fit in correctly. They're already doing the basic questioning and learning needs process. From that point, any sort of online assessment is already using in some particular AI or some sort of digital technology. Obviously, things like ChatGPT and all these other Bard, I think you used for my intro, they're already there. We're already doing it. People in the resource writing sector need to ensure that they have a lot more human relationship-based support processes around resources. It's not good enough anymore just to be an expert in your field and writing content. You need to be a lot more involved in the tech sector. Now, the other part of AI is we as an industry are at the forefront of creating new skills and knowledge in the digital world. There is nobody else doing it. universities will not be able to catch up on this one. They're already well and truly behind. We are at the forefront, the vet sector. Schools are coming along little bits at a time. They're already playing around with different types of AI for their students and giving them new digital skills. But we as a full, across how many industries do we have? I know the Prickly to Sweet system has 41 training packages, but there are so many more, and every single one of those will have digital skills built into them. So we are on fire in that sector. After that point, it's ensuring you utilize, from an RTO point of view, any particular automated process that you possibly can to ensure those human interactions are the focus and not necessarily behind the desk because they're so bogged down in compliance processes. I think the digital world and AI will ensure that we have a lot more documented evidence that we would normally maybe have missed. In my system, there's a lot more statistical analysis. It's no longer just you comply or you don't comply. Let's actually drill down in the areas that you really are good at or that you really need improvement in. And the only way to do that is an AI system because it does it so much quicker. After that point, and all the assessments comply and you've got your validation and you've got all your other processes all aligned, that point of support and certificate afterwards, those after sales service, I think the industry will be really enhanced by AI after that point. I think we can lead into more industry engagement with it. I think we can have additional exercises related to the vet industry and have big, I don't know, let's just chuck it out there. Expos should be coming back in. The relationship building expos that we used to have back in the 90s, where people used to come together and have a big chat and get excited about projects. I think that's where, because we stuck in our old ways and we've got all this AI and other things happening, we can go back and have people to people relationally inspired. So that's really exciting for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was talking to Ray Mackay about this earlier because he's just come off of a course from, I think, Oxford in relationship to AI as well. And we were both saying how we can see within the next couple of years, a student uploads a video of them from the workplace and the AI kind of goes tick, 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 tick. These are all the skills that you've already performed. We can see that. Now we're going to hand you over to a human being to do the training on the areas that you still need help on. So
awesome. Oh, how exciting is that? I mean, I get so excited by that.
Just absolutely incredible as to how that's all going to work. And you're right. So much of what we're doing already, we're really not aware of how much we're already, implementing in our workplace, sort of a thing. I guess in relationship, like looking at the other side of that, then in relationship to things like, like learning to deal with plagiarism, learning to teach students how to use AI in the effective way, as opposed to just give me the answer sort of thing. What are some of the things that you are seeing in that space? What are some of the ways that you think that educators need to be building their skills in order to be able to deal with that sort of thing?
So from my sector and what I look at a lot during the day and every single day, we're still looking at assessments and there's still copying and pasting from performance criteria. And I was like, okay, that in itself is one of the fundamental things that you go, we still need to work hard on understanding wording, context, sentence structure, right down to the basics. So when you talk about plagiarism, even plagiarism from the unit of competency, our system, for example, in Prickly to Sweet has a big red alert saying, look, you might be 98% compliant, but this is a false positive because you've plagiarized from the unit in these places. So it's being built into systems already. And I think we, as the users of the system, have to be more aware and being able to use the system to know how and when it picks it up. That's one of the things. So users of the system need to know how it happens, not just how to look for it themselves. When we talk about training, over the years that I've done audit, I still have seen, unfortunately, people are given the answers. So if we create systems that assess students' outcome, and if it's exactly word for word from the benchmark, then you know that the training has been done not appropriately and they've just been given the answers. Then that leads to lack of skill and knowledge, because it's not just, can you tell me this? Can you tell me that? It's, if you were in this situation, what would you do? It's those contingency management ones that I think we have an opportunity now to enhance what we're using and give better experiences with, to move away from answer question, or lots of multi-choice that isn't appropriate. Like, you know, basket weaving is an answer, and it's like, seriously, that's obviously not going to be the answer. We need a bit more encouragement from our industry people and content experts to go, let's stop creating off-the-shelf assessments that are inappropriate. Let's start enhancing if we do purchase, or work with somebody like you who creates specific assessment processes and tools for specific industry, and work with you to get the best out of it, rather than just off the shelf, copy paste.
And understanding the AQF level as well as part of that. Like, I mean, as you said, you know, like, you know, we still see Cert 4s where it's like a lot of multi-choice, and it's like, no, stop.
We move beyond that. Yeah. The learning outcome has to go beyond just, do you guess which answer is correct? Yeah.
And
I mean, look,
there are ways of making it so that you can still make assessments that are, you know, as you said, like, that are easy to mark, and where we can get the cost saving and the time saving in other places.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have to come at the cost of quality assessment. I think that's, you know, it's so
that's
crucial.
exactly right. Look, I mean, then there's going to be a lot of changes. There's talk already about changing the way units are structured and training.gov and all the rest of it. And we can roll with that. The fundamentals of assessment will remain. You can call it something different, but it's exactly the same. Human interaction is the same, except with a little bit of extra play and interactive, you know, fun parts. I think we're making it more fun. There's a lot of stress, though. I think we do have to be very aware that a lot of people in our industry get very stressed over digital stuff. And they're still concerned to say, you know, my compliance team have got this, it's fine. It's like, okay, how about you support your compliance team to do even better and more productive and not so stressed out? Because you and I both know that there is still a lot of compliance positions that keep coming available because people are still moving around and they get burnt out real quickly. So if we utilize the AI and the digital stuff, get really back to being passionate about those areas and not just a token compliance person to take responsibility when an audit is called.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So I guess that leads into what is one of the things that you think that RTOs should be doing at the moment to really set themselves up for success? You know, like, and I guess when I say RTOs, let's look at it at like the management level, and then let's look at it at like our training educator level. What are some of the things that they need to be doing?
Okay, this is going to be left field. I'm a bit of a disruptor, but you know, hey, we'll roll with it. I would absolutely love people to start really understanding roles and responsibilities. Now, the reason I say that is I talk a lot to so many different levels of RTO management or positions, because our system could sometimes be used by administration, then used by RTO compliance managers, and then it's the CEOs or the financial officers that are actually have to make a financial investment. So there's lots of tiers to go through. So many CEOs of RTOs seem hamstrung by their team because they don't understand the compliance requirements. So they're the ones at the top making the big decisions and leading, but they're not able to lead because of the people underneath are holding on to the information going, you can't have that, we've got it. And that upsets me. So the one thing they can all do is start having a better culture inside the organization related to compliance. Whether they use automation or not, I don't care. But let's get back to having far better understanding of what makes your organization tick, the culture, the sharing of the knowledge so that you're working as a team. I would love to see that. So number one, that's what everybody should do. Even if they do a self-reflection and say, okay, are we actually doing that, or do we think we're doing that?
Yeah.
So
the holding onto the knowledge is a real thing. You can tell when you go into an RTO and you've got like a compliance and a management where they want everyone to be involved, where like they want, you know, like they have trainers come into all of their mock audits, and you know, where they're doing like a lot of internal PD and where they're kind of constantly upskilling admin. that's a really happy RTO where like you've got those two or three key people at the top going, I'm going to give you all of the knowledge that I have, versus like you walk into an RTO and you can see it, like you've got one or two people who've got all of this information, but they like flat out refuse to like share it across the org. It's like, you don't need to know that. It's fine. You don't need, I'll take care of that. I'll handle that.
Yeah.
All you need to do is train. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but like you need to just, let's just share this little bit of knowledge. See, let's see how, let's give it a little bit, see how it goes.
It just sharing of knowledge in any way, shape, or form is only a positive outcome. And when it comes to assessment and understanding assessment and getting assessments marking, even down to the point where you have a trainer and assessor, they've gone out, they've done their job, they think, they've provided the administration, the assessment tool. The administration goes, hang on, you haven't ticked this, this isn't signed, this isn't dated, this is missing an answer. But it's that fundamental understanding of that team environment, of what the assessor does has an impact on what the admin does, of what the impact on the student. And it's that big circular thing. And that's why I say check each other. Let's actually have that conversation. Let's share and understand your role in that big picture. And validation, which is my big area, it really hones into that circular area, going, okay, if you have that process, who actually follows that process? Who is actually ensuring that process is correct, and so on. So that's one of the big areas that all providers could do right now to help.
Yeah. And if you are the CEO of an organization, you know, like I do this all the time. If I'm talking to people about like, you know, if you who want to register and they're like, oh, but so-and-so is going to run everything for us. I'm like, I don't care. You're the CEO. You are the legally responsible person. So unless you can tell me where your tasks are, and unless you can tell me, you know, what your assessment strategy is and how your validation system works, then I don't want to work with you, because at the end of the day, ASQA doesn't care what I think. ASQA doesn't care what your lower level staff think. They want to know that the legally responsible person for the organization actually knows how the organization runs. Like you can't just delegate. If you're going to delegate that off, make them the CEO. You take a step back and just be like a shareholder. You know?
Yeah, I love the difference between a leader and a manager. Oh, and that's just because you are aware of it doesn't mean you have to do everything. You still can identify the other roles associated, but you're still working together and there's an understanding. And to be perfectly honest, without that, I don't know how some providers are actually progressing and growing, because that's what I would like to see the next stage and phase of our industry is enhance this new era of digital understanding. Make sure you have a strong team behind you as you do it, but then grow. Let's really enhance our education in vet. We've got so many more vet providers than universities. We need to move out and away from government funded. But to do that, you need that strong base.
The universities have been given a 2-year warning to say you actually need more skills. Like you've got 2 years, fix the teachers first. They need more skills. They need less theory. They need more actual skills to do their job. So, you know, like it's out there.
It is. It's a very exciting space. But I mean, then again, I can't remember a time that's not been exciting. There's always something going on in our industry.
Yeah.
Good or bad, but there's always something going on.
And so then from an educator perspective, so for our actual like trainers and assessors, vet practitioners, you know, because they are often the ones that obviously they then get called in when it comes to, you know, well, your unit has failed validation, right? What can trainers and assessors be doing to better, you know, to be more prepared, to be more aware, things like that?
So there's different ways to pull that apart, actually. If you're a trainer and assessor and you haven't maintained your currency in industry, you're going to be flat out very hard to help fix some areas. So there's a lot of and ahhing about who's actually responsible for that, who should take time off to do that, how that actually should be done, how it should be recorded, all those sorts of things. That leads into a whole new phase that obviously I think is still got a little way to go for AI and a digital experience to make that process easier. But if you're a trainer and assessor and you haven't got all of that, you're sort of behind the 8 ball already. Then if you have got that, then the process of review should be that you're focusing on rectification, not arguing over question 5 that everybody agrees complies, but somebody wants to change a word in a question. It's like, come on, don't waste your time. We are all, there are too many vet processes that are governed by time, and we don't have the time to do it. We need to think smarter about this. So for a trainer, yeah, focus on your currency and understanding your place in the team and how it all fits together. And that's how you can best help any sort of validation and assessment review process.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. And I think that you're right. I mean, it's, you know, it's very challenging because with every trainer and assessor, we're looking for 2 things. We're looking for, you know, industry currency and understanding what their industry is. And then we also need them to be a great trainer. You know, which means, you know, understanding how to engage their students, understanding how to collect assessment evidence. It's a vast skill set that, you know, really, you know, if you're like a trainer and you're very engaging, you're probably not as good in the background of like the paperwork and the attention to comply, you know, the attention to detail. Whereas if you're very much focused on like the attention to detail and, you know, you're like a little bit pedantic and things like that, then it's probably going to be harder for you to like really, you know, create that relationship and be engaging and, you know, pull your students in along the journey. So to some extent, it's one of these roles that is very much, it requires a very complex layering of skills that you don't generally find in many people. Like when you find that trainer that has spot on attention to detail, engaging as all hell, like you grab them and you don't let them go, you know.
Yeah,
like
they're very much the unicorn. Yeah, they're very much they're very hard. And I think that's why it's so important to have that team relationship and understanding of process, so that you can recognize the strengths in your people, and they're either amazing interactive trainers but need help and support in the admin, or they've got great admin but maybe as a community of trainers in the team, even if it's just a small RTO and it's just the owner and one other trainer, you work together to get the most out of your students and also each other, so that you can actually have that niche market that you're playing with, because most of those small boutique RTOs are niche markets. They're not going to just be doing basic business assessments and those sorts of things. There's a lot of providers that do business. So yeah, unless you're doing business for a particular industry specific, like, oh, I don't know, something to do with people, phlebotomists who take blood, right? And they have to have a lot of skills related to administration. So they could be doing business units as part of their phlebotomy. Now I'm not even going to be able to say that's it. So it really does come back to that human aspect of, I agree with you. It's very difficult to get one person who can do everything. I mean,
and that unit in itself is hard, because I think you've actually got to be doing 18 hours a fortnight of active phlebotomy work. So you've got to find someone who is happy to do part-time in industry and part-time as a trainer and assessor. Like, you know, some of these units just have these really hard requirements. So
and it is down to the RTO and the way you enhance and focus on the strengths of your people and work as a team to identify, these are the process. It can't be an awful one, and we have to be flexible. I mean, if COVID taught us nothing, flexibility is the absolute key for an organization to keep going.
Yeah, you know, and technology, because those RTOs that had no technology, they just went away during COVID because it was just too hard to do anything else. So, you know, the technology is integral to like our ability to adapt and be responsive and things like that. Absolutely. Yeah,
for sure.
All right, so tell everybody, where can we pick up your book? Where can we find you? All of that good stuff.
So the book is available across all good major bookstores. It was #1 on Amazon for a couple of weeks when we first published, so we're really excited about that. So you can get it in hard copy and Kindle, but you can also get it from other bookstores. You can request a copy straight from my website, and I will give you a signed copy. just because if that's what you want. But other than that, the books 2 and 3 will probably be on the same platforms as well. So it's available everywhere.
Awesome. And your website?
The website is pricklytosweet.com.au.
All right. Awesome.
Super easy.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Vanessa. I hope that everybody found this conversation really helpful. This is Vanessa McCarthy from Prickly to Sweet. My name is Lauren Hollows from NOI Education Services. You guys know we've got videos dropping every Wednesday and Sunday, so please like, share, and subscribe to keep more good content coming your way. I'm Lauren Hollows for NOI Education Services.